Hi, Professor Welker. It's Ty Showalter from your Com 110 class that met every Monday night. I'm coming to you right now from my living room with the courtesy of my parents recording this presentation. Right now we're going to be talking about the book, The Fine Art of Small Talk by Deborah Fine. I really enjoyed this book. I've considered myself to be fairly good at small talk, specifically because I served as a missionary for my church in Peru for 2 years, and you've mentioned several times that your husband served a mission, so I know that you're familiar with the way that that works and what missionaries have to do. So while I was serving, I obviously got to know a lot of people, and through small talk, developed meaningful relationships with the people of Peru and was able to have deep, meaningful conversations with them. So I'm not gonna lie, I have considered myself to be pretty good at small talk and to be a master of small talk, but since I came home, which is about a year now, 9 months, 10 months, I know that my small talk skills have deteriorated just because I haven't had to use them as much as I did as a missionary. So I've really appreciated this opportunity to read this book and revisit some of the key principles that I know that I learned when I was in Peru. So I just wanted to start off with the synthesis of the material that I learned from this book. Each and every page and every chapter was so educational, and I really enjoyed this book, specifically because she gives tips and phrases and pre-written questions that you can go into any conversation and have success with. So it was kind of hard to narrow down specifically what I wanted to talk about, but I've selected 5 topics from the book that stood out to me the most. They are making the first courageous steps, smiling and looking at others in their eyes, like I'm trying to do right now with you, remembering others' names, the 8 crimes, which I titled conversational suicide, just because that's what happens when you commit these crimes, and my personal favorite, how to navigate the difficult terrain of dating. So just to get started, addressing the first courageous steps. For those that aren't very good at small talk or those that are trying to get better, there's a lot of anxiety that surrounds just getting started and starting a conversation and committing. I remember feeling those things as a missionary. That's in a lot of ways, per what Deborah Fine explains, because of some teachings that we're taught as children. And those are: good things come to those who wait, silence is golden, wait to be introduced properly, and don't talk to strangers. Also, some people are just naturally shy. So she identifies those 4 maxims that we're taught as children and says that they're no good for adults trying to navigate the adult world, especially where networking and making connections with strangers is so important. So in regards to good things come to those who wait, Deborah asserts that it's important to be assertive and to start a conversation for your own if you want to get to know somebody. Silence is golden is never okay during a conversation, especially with a new person, because it can lead to pregnant pauses and uncomfortable moments. So she provides many questions and tools that you can use to avoid silence, like asking that person about their history or their life, but you want to avoid going too deeply. Waiting to be introduced properly, as per Deborah Fine's words, will net you a whole lot of nothing, especially when you're at a function or a party where the host is occupied. Most of the time they won't have time to introduce you to everybody. So you've got to take that step and be the one to introduce yourself to those that you would like to get to talk to. And I apologize if you hear dogs barking in the background. Ours are locked up in the laundry room, but it's okay, don't worry. The last one is don't talk to strangers. For children, that's very important just because, it's the way that they're kept safe. But for adults, once again, working on networking and trying to be available to opening up new pathways, especially with your career, that's an important thing to get better at, is talking to strangers. Next point that I wanted to address is smiling and looking at others in the eyes. And it's impossible not to smile when you see this cute little baby girl. Unfortunately, I don't smile like that anymore. I grew teeth and I got older. But it would be nice if everyone was able to generate that kind of smile. Smiling and making eye contact with others is so important because it's It allows us to feel noticed and appreciated by those around us. And I know that I feel better when I get a genuine look or smile from someone that I don't know, just because it spreads kindness and good feelings. So I really, really appreciated that. And that's actually something that I tried to put into practice more on my mission, having learned the importance of smiling from those that I served around. Something that I am very terrible at is remembering names. And I just wanted to make reference to this meme of Andy from Parks and Rec as he's saying, I talk to you every day, but I forgot your name. And at this point, I'm too afraid to ask. I think that's so funny because it happens to me all the time. When I get to know people, unfortunately, I forget their names really, really easily. And what Deborah says is that it's natural. It's human nature to forget and to just kind of lose track of so many people's names. But it's important when you're getting to know someone, if you've forgotten their name, don't continue on in the conversation. Ask them their name before it's too late, before they use yours again, because it can turn into an awkward situation like this with Andy. Conversational suicide. There are 8 crimes that Deborah Fine identifies as conversational suicide, and those are being an FBI agent. That's someone who interrogates and turns a pleasant conversation into an unpleasant experience. The braggart. This is the person who wants to be seen as better than everyone else and is always talking about their self. They're self-absorbed. Nobody likes the braggart. The braggart always seems to be accompanied by the one-upper. The one-upper is constantly trying to make themselves better than you and trying to show that their experiences or their life or their job is just a little bit better than yours. So one up yours, Karen. And if you get the reference, that would make me laugh. Then there's the monopolizer and the interrupter. These people also just love to have the attention fixed on them. The monopolizer doesn't seem to want to give control of the conversation to anybody else. And not to bag on the people of Peru, but there were plenty of times when there were conversations that were monopolized from us by some of these folks. And we loved them, but it was not fun. The interrupter as well just can't seem to let you get any words out. And as soon as you start trying to tell a story or something, they interject with something else. Then there's the poor sport. This person is the type of person that would respond to someone saying, I love you, they'd say ditto. And that's just not okay. Then there's the know-it-all and the advisor. Basically with those two, Deborah Fine just says, if you're not asked for your advice, then don't give it. So to move on to the application that so far that I've experienced with these, because of being in quarantine, I've decided to delve into the unforgiving and unnatural slash scary world of online dating. And you know, it's been interesting, but it's given me a more comfortable platform to start practicing with the first courageous steps and reaching out to pretty girls that I probably wouldn't reach out to in public just because of intimidation. And it's allowed me to see that I can start small talk conversations with those that I find attractive. So it's kind of been taking 2 things out at one time because I didn't talk about dating. My bad, I'm gonna go back. Dating, just wanna mention this real quick. Dating is important, especially with small talk, because you wanna make the other person feel good and recognized and known. You wanna evoke feelings of positivity from others, and we tend to wanna spend time around those that make us feel good. Okay, so we're gonna go back. So taking those first courageous steps on online dating has given me that opportunity to be sincere and genuine with the people that I'm talking to, rather than using a silly pickup line and seeing what kind of response I get. So that's kind of what I've been doing here in quarantine. For the future, I want to try smiling at others and making eye contact with strangers and seeing if any conversation comes from it. And I also want to avoid the 8 crimes. Oftentimes I find myself acting like the poor sport and giving kind of a bad response, which oftentimes stems from the fact that I'm not really a great listener, which brings me to names. I'm bad at remembering names and I want to be better at it. And again, that's partially because I'm not always the best listener. So I'm going to be focusing on my listening skills to try and be a better small talker. And just to end it, I know that we're a little close on time. Suggestions for application, I would just suggest working on smiling and making eye contact with those around you, and working on perfecting the first steps that are taking that courageous leap of getting out there and being assertive with your conversation, talking to strangers, and breaking the silence. Also, I think just names is super important. It's always great to remember a person's name, and I would recommend to anybody watching this, try and be better at focusing on remembering others' names. And that is the end of my presentation.